want you to picture a very specific sound for a second.
Oh, I think I know exactly where you're going with it.
Right. It's that familiar rhythmic clapping of domino tiles being shuffled across a wooden table.
Yeah, the classic sound.
Exactly. And right now, your brain is probably conjuring up a very specific scene to go with that auditory cue. You know, you're thinking about a relaxed Sunday afternoon.
Maybe a barbecue sizzling in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Or like grandfathers holding court at a park table.
Yeah.
You're picturing casual hangouts, maybe a cold drink sweating in the summer heat.
It's a very universal image.
It really is. For generations, across dozens of different cultures, that has been the universal image of dominoes. I mean, it's a pastime, a way to kill a few hours with friends and family.
But what happens when you take that exact same game?
The exact same 28 tiles.
Right, the exact same tiles.
Yeah.
And you systematically strip away that lazy Sunday atmosphere.
That is the million-dollar question. What happens when you inject it with, like, high-stakes game theory, a ruthless ticking clock, and a professional economic structure?
Well, you fundamentally alter the psychological state of the players. I mean, you get an environment where every single move is a calculated risk.
The pressure just skyrockets.
Oh, absolutely. The cognitive load is immense. And a casual mistake doesn't just cost you bragging rights at the family cookout, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It mathematically destroys your aggregate score.
It damages your professional standing.
Exactly, in a codified professional league.
And that is exactly the architecture we are exploring today on this deep dive. We are looking at a highly detailed blueprint provided by an organization called Optimus Optimi.
Yeah, and they are launching something they call the Optimus Optimi National Domino Competition.
Right. And the source documents we are analyzing today, they detail this complete vision. We've got heavily altered game mechanics and these structural rules designed to transform dominoes from a casual backyard game into, well, a national competitive sport.
And a fully functioning microeconomy, which is crazy to think about.
It really is. So our mission today is to essentially deconstruct how a system like this is built from the ground up to foster very specific human behaviors.
Right, we're looking at how you engineer strategy, timing, decision-making, and pressure control into a system that, let's be honest, most people dismiss as simply matching dots.
Yeah, just matching numbers on a piece of resin.
But we are going to examine the underlying math, the psychological pressure points and the sports economics that turn those 28 tiles into a literal competitive engine.
So let's start with the physical board, or, you know, the departure from casual play. The Optimus Optima document sets a very clear physical baseline.
Which is surprising because they don't actually change the physical pieces.
Exactly. We are dealing with the exact same equipment you probably have in a dusty box in your closet right now. It uses the standard 28 tile set, ranging from the double blank.
The 0-0 tile.
Right, all the way up to the double six. Every single tile is unique. There are no duplicates in the set, so you have exactly 28 unique pieces of data.
So the physical tools haven't changed, but the distribution mechanics immediately introduce this information asymmetry depending on the scale of the match.
How so?
Well, the blueprint breaks down the starting hands based on player count. If you are locked in a head-to-head two-player game, each player draws 14 tiles.
Okay, so the entire set is in play right away.
Exactly. Every single tile is in someone's hand. But if you are a four-player game, each player draws exactly 7 tiles.
Got it. So again, the entire board is distributed, but the information is fractured across 4 different minds instead of just 2.
Right. And right there, during that distribution phase, we hit the first massive structural rule.
Oh, man. Yeah. This is a highly specific mandate in the text. It states that no player is allowed to hold all 7 tiles of a single number.
Meaning you cannot hold all 7 of the 5s or all 7 of the blanks.
Mm-hmm. The maximum allowed is 6. And if a player happens to draw all 7, the game stops immediately and the tiles must be completely reshuffled.
Which is a huge departure from standard play.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when I read this, my immediate reaction was to push back against it.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, think about poker. If you are dealt a royal flush right off the bat, that is just the luck of the draw. You win. It's a massive dopamine hit, and it's part of the game's variance, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So why outlaw a lucky draw in dominoes? Doesn't banning that scenario essentially punish good luck and sterilize the game? Like, if I shuffle the tiles and pull all 7 5s, didn't I earn that through the random distribution?
Well, you didn't earn it. You simply stumbled into a monopoly.
A monopoly.
What's fascinating here is that this is a crucial distinction when you are trying to design a game of skill rather than a game of chance. Let's look at the actual zero-sum mechanics of the board.
Okay, lay it out for me.
If you hold all 7 tiles of a specific number, let's say you hold every single tile with a 3 on it, you control the entire supply chain for that specific numerical currency. You've created an absolute impenetrable bottleneck.
Oh, because no one else can possibly play off a 3.
Exactly. The moment a 3 is exposed on the board, the game just grinds to a halt for everyone but you.
Wow, okay. You've literally cornered the market on a commodity.
Right. Now, in a casual game, that is a funny, chaotic moment. You laugh, you show your hand, someone gets mad.
Sure, it's a great story for the cookout.
But in a professional, highly competitive sport where real economic stakes are on the line, that scenario provides an unearned, insurmountable advantage based entirely on a random shuffle.
It guarantees a stall.
Yes. And the Optimus Optimi document explicitly states that this system is built on strategy, timing, decision-making, and pressure control. A purely lucky draw that mathematically breaks the board. It just eliminates all 4 of those foundational pillars.
It turns a rigorous battle of minds into a lottery ticket. So the rule isn't about punishing luck at all. It's about preserving agency for the players.
Exactly. By capping the maximum hold at 6 tiles of a single number, they ensure that the board always has at least 1 pressure valve.
Because the 7th tile is out there somewhere in someone else's hand.
Right. The game remains fluid, the economy of the board keeps moving. It really proves that Optimus is rigorously engineering this system to reward the player who makes the best decisions, not the player who got the best initial distribution.
That makes the underlying philosophy very clear. It basically forces you to play the game rather than letting the draw dictate the outcome.
Yeah, you have to work for it.
And the source material actually gives an explicit warning about this. It says success is not about the tiles you happen to draw. It is entirely dependent on how you manage them.
And to understand how you manage them, we really have to look at the battlefield itself. We have to examine the core mechanics.
Let's do it, because this is the point where the traditional understanding of dominoes just shatters for me.
Oh, completely. It starts resembling a highly aggressive, real-time, tactical environment.
The blueprint outlines a system they call the live number system, and the mechanics are incredibly confrontational.
It's basically chess with tiles.
Yeah. So when a player plays a tile, that number instantly becomes active on the board, and the opponent must respond to it.
It was not a suggestion.
No, it's a direct, combative back and forth. You expose a number, the opponent has to answer that specific number.
And it creates forced engagement. You cannot passively sit back, hoard your tiles, and build your own isolated strategy while ignoring the opponent.
You're constantly reacting to the live state of the board.
Right. And the friction, the true competitive tension, comes from what happens when you cannot respond to the active number.
This brings us to the move on rule.
This is where it gets brutal.
Seriously.
Yeah.
If you look at your hand and realize you do not have the numerical currency to respond to the active number on the board, you must verbally declare, move on.
And when you say those words, you are handing the momentum entirely over to your opponent.
Which triggers a mechanic that the blueprint simply calls the run.
The run is where the cognitive load and pressure control aspects of this sport become completely visible.
How so? Break down a run for us.
Well, if I force you into a position where you have to say, move on, I don't just get to play my next tile and then patiently wait for you to take your turn.
The turn-based rhythm of the game just evaporates.
Exactly. I get to continuously play multiple tiles, chaining them back to back, altering the active number over and over until you can finally respond to whatever new active number I leave on the board.
Or until you finish all your tiles and win the game outright.
Right. Yeah, it's devastating.
Let's put the listener in the hot seat to really illustrate how crazy this is. Imagine you're sitting at the table. You say, move on. Your opponent drops a 5-2. You don't have a 2.
So you're stuck.
Right, so they immediately drop a 2-1. You don't have a 1. They drop a 1-6.
And you are just sitting there staring at your hand while your opponent relentlessly rewrites the state of the board.
There is absolutely nothing you can do but watch your advantage evaporate. The psychological devastation of being caught in a run shifts dominoes from a polite parlor game into something resembling a fighting game.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
It's like you leave your guard down and get caught in a multi-hit combo that drains your health bar before you can even input a command.
The fighting game analogy is apt, but let's look deeper into the psychology of competitive spaces here. In traditional turn-based games like chess, checkers, standard dominoes, there is a predictable rhythm.
My turn, your turn.
Yeah, and that rhythm provides a psychological safety net. Even if I make a bad move, I know I will have a guaranteed moment to stop, assess the damage, and formulate a counterattack.
But the run violently strips away that safety net.
It introduces the concept of pure, unadulterated momentum. When you are on the receiving end of a run, your carefully crafted plan for your hand is dismantled in real time. A sense of helplessness just sets in.
But Optimus Optimi doesn't just leave you defenseless to be battered until the game ends, right? They built in a counter mechanic that requires, frankly, an insane level of mental agility.
Catching on the break.
Yes, catching on the break. So you are enduring your opponent's run. They are chaining tiles together, but suddenly, in the middle of their combo, they play a tile that changes the active number to something you do actually have in your hand.
And according to the blueprint, you don't wait for an invitation.
No, you don't raise your hand. You can immediately jump back into the game. You slam your tile down, effectively slamming the brakes on their momentum.
You break the combo.
You break the combo. But doing that requires sustained, hyper-vigilant attention.
Oh, absolutely. You cannot emotionally check out when you say move on. You can't just sigh, lean back, and wait for the storm to pass.
You have to watch every single tile your opponent is chaining together with a hawk's intensity.
Tracking the shifting numbers and calculating your hand simultaneously, ready to strike the exact millisecond your number becomes live.
The mental agility required to transition from total passive helplessness to immediate aggressive action is immense. I mean, it alters the mental state of the players entirely.
Which perfectly sets up the ultimate strategic distinction outlined in the Optimus Optimi document.
Right, the difference between an amateur and a pro.
Exactly. The organizers state that an amateur player looks at their hand and asks, "Can I play?"
Which is basic pattern recognition.
Right. But a professional in this system looks at their hand and asks, "Should I play this now?"
That is the ultimate strategic question.
That single question is the philosophical core of the entire sport. Can I play is purely reactive. You see a 5 on the board, you have a 5 in your hand, you mash them.
Simple.
But should I play this now introduces probability, forecasting, and risk assessment. It implies that you are viewing your tiles not just as pieces to be discarded, but as limited resources to be deployed at the optimal moment.
Let's really break down the mechanics of that choice. Let's say you have a tile that perfectly matches the active board. The amateur instinct is to instantly play it to get closer to an empty hand, right?
Always.
But a professional might analyze the board, calculate the tiles that have already been played, and intentionally hold that playable tile back. Why? To set a trap.
Exactly. You willingly absorb a minor disadvantage in the short term to orchestrate a catastrophic disadvantage for your opponent in the long term.
So it's about board manipulation.
It is. If, based on card counting and board analysis, that your opponent is heavy on 4s, and the active number is currently a 4, you might intentionally play a different tile to shift the active number away from 4.
Oh, so you force them into a position where they have to declare, move on.
Yes. Handing you the momentum, you are manipulating the active numbers to corner them.
Wow. So you have to be willing to sit on a perfectly good move to make a game-ending move later.
It requires a level of working memory and emotional detachment that is incredibly demanding. You are essentially running decision trees in your head.
Like calculating percentages on the fly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're thinking, if I play this tile, the opponent has a 60% chance of being able to respond based on the exposed board.
Right.
If I hold this tile and play a different one, their chance of responding drops to 20%.
You are managing the entire probability matrix of the board.
All while sitting across from someone trying to do the exact same thing to you.
And you are doing all of this complex calculation, by the way, while a clock is ticking.
Which changes everything.
It really does. But before we dive into the timing mechanics, we need to zoom out and look at the arena itself.
Like the broader structure.
Exactly. We have established that the game has been re-engineered into this tactical knife fight. But Optimus Optimi isn't just publishing a new rule book. They are building a professional sports league. Let's look at the pressure cooker. The league structure itself.
To transition a game into a national sport, you need a hierarchy. You need a structural ladder that gives players a clear trajectory for advancement and economic reward.
And the blueprint outlines 3 distinct competitive tiers. At the entry level, you have the rookie division. Above that, the elite division. And at the absolute pinnacle, the pro division.
But this is not a static franchise system like we see in major American sports.
No, there is a built-in promotion and relegation system. Top players who dominate their division move up. Bottom players who struggle fall down to the lower tier.
Promotion and relegation is the most ruthless and arguably the most effective way to ensure high-quality competition.
We see this extensively in European soccer leagues, right? Like the English Premier League.
Yes, and it is fundamentally different from the American closed franchise model. In a franchise system, a team can perform terribly for a decade and still reap the massive financial rewards of simply existing in the league through revenue sharing and guaranteed television deals.
There is no existential threat to losing.
Precisely. But in the Optimus Optimi system, complacency literally gets you demoted and threatens your earning potential.
If you are a pro and you start losing your edge, maybe your reaction time slows down or your probability calculations get sloppy, you will find yourself relegated back to the elite division.
And you will be fighting for your life against hungry rookies who have spent the last season studying your game tape and clawing their way up the ladder.
It ensures that the top tier is always populated strictly by the absolute best players at that exact moment in time.
The product on the table is always premium because the players are constantly fighting for their survival.
But the document also introduces a fascinating variable: the tournament structure. While regular league play happens strictly within your designated tier, tournaments throw the gates wide open.
Cross-divisional play.
Exactly. All players compete across all divisions. You could have a rookie who has only been playing in the system for 3 months, drawing a direct matchup against an established sponsored pro.
This injects massive variance and narrative potential into the sport. The David versus Goliath dynamic is a cornerstone of sports entertainment.
Think of the FA Cup in English soccer or March Madness in college basketball.
Exactly. Tournaments provide that chaotic, unpredictable narrative. It gives the rookie a platform to make a name for themselves overnight by taking down a giant.
And conversely, it forces the pro to constantly adapt.
Right, because a pro is used to playing against other pros, where the meta strategy is highly refined and predictable. A rookie might play with an unorthodox, highly aggressive style that the pro hasn't encountered in years.
So they have to defend their reputation against a totally unpredictable threat.
It's fantastic for viewership.
And you aren't just facing these threats alone. The blueprint outlines a very specific team system. Teams consist of 4 to 6 players, an official captain, and an optional coach.
But here is the massive strategic hook.
Yeah.
You have a roster of up to 6 players, but on match day, the team must select exactly 3 players to actually sit at the table and compete.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to focus on the psychological burden this places on the captain and the coach.
Oh, it's immense.
You have to look at the opposing team, analyze their historical game tape, identify their play styles, and try to predict which 3 of your players are the perfect countermeasures for that specific opponent on that specific day. You aren't just managing tiles anymore, you're managing human rosters.
It is the equivalent of a baseball manager setting a pitching rotation, or an MMA coach determining a specific fight camp strategy based on an opponent's reach and grappling style.
Walk us through how that might look in practice.
Let's walk through a hypothetical draft. If you know the opposing team plays a highly aggressive, fast-paced style that relies heavily on forcing runs early in the game, how do you respond?
You probably don't want to match their aggression.
No, you don't send in your own aggressive players because that just creates a chaotic coin flip of a match.
Yeah.
You might select your 3 most defensive, mathematically calculated players.
The defensive specialists.
Exactly. You send in the players who excel at slowing the game down, hoarding specific numbers to create bottlenecks, and catching on the break to neutralize the opponent's momentum.
But imagine the internal team dynamics. You have 6 highly competitive, skilled players who have trained all week, and 3 of them have to sit on the bench and watch.
The human element.
The captain has to manage egos, keep morale high, and make cold, calculated decisions about who is best equipped to win. And knowing that if they choose wrong, the entire team suffers the loss in the aggregate standings.
That interpersonal drama makes it immensely watchable as an entertainment product. It's not just about what happens on the board, it's about the tension on the sidelines.
And the stakes for those 3 selected players are magnified infinitely by what I consider the single most revolutionary structural change in the entire Optima blueprint: the time-based paradigm.
This is where they really break the mold.
Traditional dominoes, like almost all traditional tabletop games, is played as a best of series. Best out of 3, best out of 5. You play until someone hits the win condition.
Right.
But Optimus Optimi throws that concept out the window entirely. Matches are strictly played within a fixed time limit.
The document uses an example of a 45-minute total match time. This fundamentally rewrites the DNA and the incentives of the game.
Let's walk through exactly how this aggregate scoring math works, because it requires a complete paradigm shift for anyone used to casual play.
It really does.
Within that 45-minute window, the match consists of Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3, and every single game's score contributes to a final aggregate total. Let me use the exact example from the source text to make this crystal clear.
Go for it.
Let's say in Game 1, Team A and Team B tie at 2-2. Then in Game 2, Team A pulls ahead and wins 3-1. In Game 3, Team B fights back and wins 1-2.
Okay, so a mixed bag of results.
Exactly. If this were a traditional best-of series, you would just look at who won the most individual games. It would be a messy result. But here, you mathematically aggregate the total performance across the 45 minutes.
You just add it all up.
Right. Team A scored 2 points in Game 1, plus 3 points in Game 2, plus 1 point in Game 3, for a total of 6. Team B scored 2, plus 1, plus 2, for a total of 5. Team A wins the match 6-5.
The Optimus Optimi organizers explicitly list 4 reasons why this system is powerful. More excitement, more strategy, every point matters, and continuous tension.
Continuous tension, that's the phrase that sticks out to me.
Let's analyze that.
A.
In a traditional best of format, there are moments of low stakes. If you are getting utterly crushed in Game 1 and your opponent is dominating the board, human nature dictates that you will mentally check out.
You just give up on that round.
Exactly. You might think, I am not going to waste my cognitive energy fighting a losing battle. I will just forfeit this game, clear the board, and start fresh in Game 2 with a 0-0 score.
Because the margin of your loss in Game 1 doesn't matter. Only the binary win or loss matters. You can afford to have a throwaway game. You can sacrifice a battle to win the war.
Right. But with aggregate scoring over a fixed time limit, the concept of a throwaway game ceases to exist. Every single point is a permanent fixture on the final scoreboard. If you are losing Game 1 by a large margin, you cannot quit. You are forced to fight tooth and nail for every single point, simply to minimize the mathematical damage.
Because a massive blowout in Game 1 will mathematically bury you.
Exactly. It makes it impossible to catch up, even if you technically win Games 2 and 3 by slim margins.
And the clock itself changes the physics of decision-making. Adding a 45-minute timer to a game that requires deep, complex probability calculation is a brilliant way to induce errors.
The pressure just builds and builds.
But wait, a question comes to mind here. If the match is 45 minutes and Team A gets an early lead, doesn't the clock just incentivize them to stall? Couldn't they just take 5 minutes to play a single tile to drain the clock?
That is a great point, but that is exactly why the move on and run mechanics are so brilliantly intertwined with the clock. You cannot stall in this system.
Because of the forced engagement.
Yes, the board forces engagement. If you try to hold the ball and run out the clock, you are forced to eventually declare, move on, because you aren't manipulating the active numbers.
Ah, I see.
The moment you stall, you give up the board, and the opponent starts a run, rapidly accumulating points while you watch helplessly. The rules act as interlocking gears. The clock creates the pressure, but the live number system prevents the coward's way out.
Let's put the listener back in the hot seat to feel that pressure. Imagine you are down 3 points on the aggregate scoreboard. You glance up and see there are exactly 4 minutes left on the 45-minute match clock.
That's a terrifying scenario.
In a normal game, without a clock, you would play defensively. You would meticulously calculate the probabilities and avoid any risky moves. But the ticking clock completely destroys your defensive matrix.
You are forced to make aggressive, high-risk plays.
You have to intentionally create chaotic board states, hoping to force a run and close the point gap before time expires.
It induces a state of artificial panic. We call it cognitive load theory in high-stress environments. Think about a quarterback executing a 2-minute drill in football.
Yeah, everything is accelerated.
That severe time constraint forces human beings to operate at the absolute ragged edge of their cognitive abilities. Mistakes happen when you are rushed. The pressure control the document highlights earlier isn't just about managing the tiles. It is about not letting the ticking clock dictate your physiological state.
Keep your cool while the room is burning down.
If you realize you need 2 points to tie with 90 seconds left, your heart rate spikes, your adrenaline surges, and your frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for complex logic, starts to shut down in favor of fight or flight instincts.
Which is exactly what you don't want when doing math.
Exactly. The true professional in the Optimus Optimi system is the player who can keep their heart rate at 60 beats per minute while the arena is screaming and the digital clock is flashing red in their peripheral vision.
And what happens when the clock hits 0 and it's a dead heat? The document has a contingency for managing the draw.
Yes, the tiebreakers.
If the aggregate scores are perfectly equal after 45 brutal minutes, teams face a critical, immediate choice. Option 1. They can mutually accept a draw, walking away with 1 point each for their league standings.
The safe bet.
Or option 2. They enter a sudden death penalty round defined as one quick high-stakes game to determine a definitive winner.
And that decision is a massive strategic gamble for the captain, and it depends entirely on macro-level lead context.
Right, where you sit on the ladder.
Do you take the guaranteed point and protect your standing on the leaderboard? Or do you risk walking away with 0 points in a chaotic sudden death shootout to try and secure the full victory?
It's all about context. If it's late in the season and you need a massive point boost to avoid relegation, you might be forced into the sudden death round.
But if you are comfortably at the top of the elite division, you might take the safe point. It requires the captain to assess the emotional exhaustion of their 3 players at the table and make a high-stakes executive decision instantly.
So we have this beautifully brutal game engine. We have a league structure with promotion and relegation, deep team metadynamics, and a ticking clock that induces cognitive overload.
It's a comprehensive system.
But a sport isn't just a set of rules played in a vacuum. A true national sport requires an ecosystem. It requires infrastructure. Let's examine how Optimus Optimi transitions from a game design document to an economic blueprint.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to transition from a game to a sport, you need capital liquidity. You need a structural framework that can support the people participating in it.
They're building an entire industry.
Exactly. Optimi is engineering an entire microeconomy around these 28 tiles.
And the entry point to that economy for a lot of people is going to be the free agent division. The blueprint notes that not everyone needs to walk in with a fully formed 6-person corporate team.
Which lowers the barrier to entry.
Right. There is a dedicated free agent division where unattached players compete against each other. But they aren't just playing for pride. This division acts as a live, highly visible scouting pool.
It operates as a marketplace for talent. Think of it like the NBA G League or minor league baseball.
So teams are always watching.
Established teams in the elite or pro divisions who maybe lost a player to relegation or who realize they lack a specific type of defensive strategic thinker to round out their matchday options, they can look at the free agent division.
They can analyze the aggregate stats, watch the match footage, and actively recruit.
It creates a merit-based pathway to the pros for anyone who has the sheer cognitive skill, but perhaps lacks the initial social or financial network to form a team from scratch.
And once you are drafted into that ecosystem, the economic engine really kicks in. The source text outlines how players can actually earn a living doing this. It lists 3 primary revenue streams: prize money, sponsorships, and future contracts.
This is a crucial validation step for the league's survival. For this demanding system to work, the players need to see a tangible return on the immense mental effort they are investing.
You can't just pay them an exposure forever.
No, absolutely not. Prize money is the direct, short-term reward for winning tournaments. Contracts offer long-term stability, a team paying a player a guaranteed rate to secure their talent for a season.
And sponsorships.
Sponsorships are the true indicator of a sport's macroeconomic health. Sponsorships mean that external brands recognize the value and the demographics of the audience watching the competition.
Which perfectly transitions to the fact that Optimus Optimi is actively creating an entire job market beyond just the players sitting at the table. To run a national league with a ticking clock and aggregate scoring, you need a massive administrative infrastructure.
Oh, the logistics are huge.
The document specifically highlights roles they are creating for referees, organizers, a media team, and coaches.
Let's just consider the cognitive demands placed on a referee in this system. It isn't just making sure people don't hide tiles up their sleeves.
Definitely not.
The referee has to manage the active numbers in real time, officially declare when a move-on has legally occurred, track the complex multi-tile runs to ensure every placement is mathematically sound.
They have to verify the split-second legality of catching on the break.
And simultaneously manage the 45-minute match clock and the aggregate score. It is a highly skilled, high-pressure administrative job that requires a deep understanding of the game's mechanics.
And you have the organizers managing the logistics of cross-divisional tournaments and the coaches analyzing game tape. But the fuel for that entire economic ecosystem, the thing that pays the referees and attracts the sponsors, is attention. Exactly. And that is where the Optimus Optimi visibility strategy comes into play. The document outlines a very clear mandate regarding media. It states that all matches are to be recorded, promoted, and shared.
In the modern era, a sport does not functionally exist if it is not easily consumable by a mass audience.
It's just a hobby otherwise.
Exactly. By mandating that all matches are recorded and shared, Optimus Optimi is building a digital content library from day one. They are consciously adopting the model used by early esports leagues and organizations like the UFC.
It's the Dana White model of early MMA. You take everything, you distribute it widely, and you let the sheer spectacle of the competition build the audience organically.
Precisely. They are creating narratives. They are highlighting star players, showcasing epic, math-defying comebacks during the final seconds of the clock, and generating the viewership which, in turn, fuels the sponsorships and the player earnings.
It is a self-sustaining economic loop designed to scale rapidly.
It's incredibly smart.
So we've looked at the microscopic details of the board, we've broken down the cognitive load of the mechanics, and we've zoomed out to look at the macroeconomics of the league. Let's look at the final section of the blueprint titled Why People Must Register and examine it through a sociological lens.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Why is the document making such an urgent push for early adoption? What's the pitch?
Well, the organizers are tapping into a well-documented phenomenon in the history of sports and competitive systems, the outsized influence of early adopters.
Getting in on the ground floor.
Exactly. The document explicitly points out the immense opportunity of being an early participant, stating that they become the founding players, the recognized names, and the future professionals.
From a game theory perspective, why is it such an advantage to get in on the ground floor of a newly codified system?
Because the meta strategy is a blank slate right now. The optimal strategy for a 45-minute aggregate scoring domino match does not exist. It hasn't been invented yet.
Oh, that's a great point.
The players who enter the Optimus Optimi system today are the ones who are going to invent the strategies that everyone else will be forced to copy and adapt to 5 years from now.
They are the ones who will discover the mathematical exploits in the aggregate scoring system.
They will define what a good draft looks like in the team system. When you look at the early days of competitive video gaming or the early days of professional basketball before the shot clock was fully understood, the pioneers who defined the mechanics hold a permanent, revered place in the history of the sport.
And Optimus Optimi is offering that foundational status to anyone willing to subject their mind to the pressure cooker today.
And the blueprint also promises massive cognitive conditioning for those who participate. It states that by playing in this system, you will actively learn high-level strategy, split-second decision-making, and competitive thinking.
So what does this all mean for the players? Are these skills actually useful off the board?
Oh, they are highly transferable skills. Learning how to analyze a shifting board of variables, how to manage your limited resources against a hostile opponent, and how to stay emotionally regulated while a clock is ticking down, those are executive function skills that translate directly to business negotiations, financial trading, and crisis management.
The game acts as a high-intensity interval training session for the frontal lobe.
I love that phrasing. Yes, it's a mental gym.
The long-term vision outlined in the text is incredibly ambitious. Optimus Optimi is explicitly stating they are building a national sport, a structured league, a professional system, and a robust platform for earning. They are inviting the public to join the foundation of an institution.
It's a bold claim, but the mechanics support it.
For those listening who are fascinated by the sheer architecture of this project, the blueprint provides a direct mechanism to observe or enter the system. The contact information listed in the document is the phone number 05-575-27592.
Let me make sure I've got that.
Let me repeat it. Again, that is 05-575-27592. And the official email is nationaldominoscompetition@gmail.com.
It is a rare opportunity to study the architectural blueprints of a sport before it is fully scaled into the mainstream. You are looking at the raw code of a future industry.
And the organizers end their blueprint with a qualifier that acts as a psychological filter. They say, if you are someone who can think ahead, stay calm, and execute under pressure, then this platform is designed specifically for you.
It's a challenge to the reader's self-perception.
They are actively filtering out casual players. They want minds that thrive in the claustrophobic space between the ticking clock and the shifting board.
It's not for everyone, and they know it.
Optimus Optimi, where minds compete. That is the closing line of the document, and it perfectly encapsulates the transition from casual tiles to cognitive warfare. We started this deep dive with the familiar, relaxing clack of dominoes on a Sunday afternoon.
A world away from what we just discussed.
Yeah. We have seen how meticulously Optimus Optimi has stripped away every casual element of that experience. They took a perfect information game of 28 tiles, implemented cutthroat zero-sum mechanics like the forced move on and the devastating run,
And then they locked those mechanics inside a ticking 45-minute match clock.
with an aggregate scoring system that mathematically demands continuous tension, punishing anyone who tries to coast. And finally, they wrapped the entire game engine in a professional league structure, complete with promotion, relegation, free agency, and a media-driven economic engine.
They've taken a game traditionally viewed as a simple exercise in matching shapes and engineered it into a high-speed, high-stakes battle of probability assessment and cognitive endurance.
It's honestly mind-blowing.
As we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave the listener with a broader structural thought to ponder. We've just spent an hour dissecting how a traditional, centuries-old game can be brilliantly reverse-engineered into a modern professional economic engine simply by changing the rules of engagement, altering the distribution of information, and adding a ticking clock.
So what's the takeaway here?
Well, if Optimus Optimi can successfully execute this level of structural alchemy on dominoes, what other casual, everyday pastimes sitting quietly in our closets right now are just one clever, mathematically sound rule tweak away from becoming the world's next massive competitive obsession?
Wow. It makes you wonder how much dormant potential is sitting in the mechanics of the games we take for granted every day. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Optimus Optimi blueprint. Keep analyzing the systems around you, stay calm under pressure, and we'll see you next time.